Okay, so there's obviously a lot more we can talk about and get into, but I do want to try to turn the corner for us a little bit. And one of the other questions is, in the midst of racial trauma, right? Some of us were again just learning about this, navigating it. How do we move towards healing, especially when we look at, and I'm asking myself this question, okay? Well, in the current context of our country and what's been happening even for the last month, that's something I'm even wrestling with. I literally had friends say, I almost had an intervention with you today because I recognize like something's off because
Mm,
of how traumatic the last month has been for me and not having any space and just dealing with the onslaught of things. And they're like, you need to experience some healing. You need to care for yourself. And so I think it's something important for us to talk about a little bit and touch on. In the midst of it, it's not something that's just going to go away. Racism and racial injustice will not be eradicated tomorrow,
mm.
right? And so we need
That's
to
right.
have some practicals as we continue to navigate this space personally and collectively. So would love
Yeah.
to, yeah, hear some thoughts that you have about that, Russell, about, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about healing. First of all, from a spiritual standpoint, we have to understand, and this is something that has been underdeveloped, is our theology of dealing with trauma and pain. Oftentimes in a Christian space, there's such an emphasis on heaven and eternity that we forget that God in his wisdom made us as embodied souls. He gave us physical bodies as well as spiritual and material bodies, and said that all of it matters. All of it is important, right? And so, first of all, Black Lives Matter to God. But in addition to that, we also recognize that racial trauma also matters. I think specifically in the book of Nehemiah, where we see when the people are from the Israelites come back to Israel and Jerusalem from exile, and they come to rebuild the wall that has been torn down. It says Sanballat and Tobias, they opposed them. It says because they hated the Jews. That was a ethnic tension. That was a discrimination that they were experiencing. And of course, we know that anti-Semitism was real throughout the entire Bible story, right? So God sees that problem. He sees that pain. And in Exodus chapter 3, it says that God saw the oppression of his people. He heard their cries, and so as a result he delivered them. So first and foremost, we have to understand that Jesus came. This is why he came healing the sick physically, as well as preaching good news. It's all inclusive. You know,
Yes,
the
yes.
gospel is all inclusive. And so what that means for us as we go into this space of dealing with trauma is to recognize that God cares about it, that he sees it, and that he wants us to lean into that space. So practically, we should be in spiritual communities that recognize, that cultivate a sense of healing from trauma. Like that should be
Yep.
just a normal thing. So one basic thing, if you're a spiritual leader on this call, if you're a coach, if you're a staff person, make space for people to heal from trauma. Don't ignore it. Don't wait for them to come to you. Assume in this the day and time that that trauma is being experienced, because it's kind of hard for it not to be. And as a result of that, make space for it. Make it normative to talk about it, because that is a way of caring for one's soul. Secondly, if you are here and you are a person of color, you are a Black person that is experiencing that sense of trauma, make sure that you are in spaces, that you find spaces where you don't have to defend and justify your existence, where your existence can be affirmed. One thing I like to say is Black joy is resistance, right? In a
Amen.
space in which your life is challenged, or your credibility, just having a sense where you can have fun and enjoy other people, that is a therapeutic environment. And the last thing I would offer is this aspect of therapy and counseling. There's a young lady that our church partners with here named Lachey Creighton, and she put me on to, there's a website, blackchristiantherapy.com. Now she explained, it's not just for Black people, it's not just for Christian people, anybody wants therapy, but there is a unique focus and emphasis, because oftentimes, even in a therapeutic or mental health and wellness space, these issues of race and racism are under appreciated and talked about. And so it's important to find those spaces. So blackchristiantherapy.com is a place where you can find folks that are going to give you that sense of space and encouragement in the midst of what you're going through. I think all of those things are important as you do activism, as you try to change what's around you and realize your voice, realize your power, but doing so in a space where you also recharge and just really have rest. Because I know for me, I have to fight to even want to have a devotional right now. I have to fight to even want to pray. And one thing that's been helpful is going back to the Psalms, looking at Psalms like Psalm 82, where it talks about how God, is the God of justice, right? Psalm 89, that righteousness and justice are the foundation of his throne. Those things help give me space and encourage me. But just spending time with my family, logging off social media, logging off the petitions to sign, not choosing to go to every protest, and just stay and be still and just enjoy. And so those are things that have helped me. How about you? What are some things that you have found helpful?
Yeah, that's so good. Well, my friends will tell you disengaging is not something I'm doing well. So that's a little problematic. So going to visit a friend next week, and she said, I'm limiting your social media activity, which I said, thank you. I need some accountability. But I think that is significant. I love the comment about Black joy is resistance. Really, our existence is resistance. I saw someone say that. But I came across a post on Instagram, and it was a thread of Black people laughing. I stood in my kitchen two mornings ago, and I was crying. I was laughing so hard. Sent it to several friends. My best guy friend FaceTimes me, and he's crying because he's just laughing. And just that release of I'm not feeling the pain and the ache and the agony that I feel day in and day out, that there's this release. And it was so good and so needed. I say that on my Instagram, so I'm going to go back to that often, to just laugh and not to always see our Black bodies traumatized in the street over and over and over, right? And so again, being mindful of that. I think the other thing is caring for yourself. And I'm going to say this again, everybody's their own person to make a decision, but I will say this: if you are Black, I have a strong encouragement to not watch the videos. We have seen enough images. We have seen enough videos. Doesn't matter how it happens. We don't need to continue. That is a form of, it's traumatizing us. And so I just think if I had not watched the video of Ahmaud Arbery, I just wonder how I would be doing in this last month. And I don't know, because I did watch it. But I think that's the significance of caring for ourselves, is it's over and over and over on social media. And so one, like you said, step away, but not always feel like you have to watch it. You don't have to. You don't have to watch what your friends send you. You don't have to see it happen, but just to step away from that. Again, it's your choice. But I just wanted to say that because I think it's significant. And I see at times people are saying, you need to watch it. You need to watch it. And it's like, no, if you are Black, you do not need to watch that. We don't need to watch. You do not need to watch that. And I would say too, what are the things that give you life? I think obviously we are in a global pandemic, and everyone's figuring things out, the social distancing, everyone's doing it different, trying to figure it out. But for me, with some friends, we go and hang out on their front lawn, and we social distance, we sit on the blankets or in a chair, and we just hang out and we laugh and we catch up. We go get ice cream. I sit on a friend's porch almost weekly, 6 feet apart, and we just sit there and we talk like in person. And don't always talk about the hard stuff. Don't get locked into that. And so what are the things, even in the midst of COVID-19, that you can still do that you enjoy? I have a friend, one of our friends, Mel Copany, she goes for a walk every morning. That is a form for her of rest and caring for herself, right? And to just step away. And so I think those are significant things, and just things that you watch that are fun, that bring humor to you, right? And just, again, to laugh or journal, if that's important to you. Those are just a few things. So I think for me, because I'm limited in some things I can't do because of our current reality, I got to be intentional, with some of those things. And the spiritual community, I tell you, I told someone the other day, God has been so kind to me with the women in particular, men as well, but the women in particular that he has surrounded me with, who hold me accountable, who challenge me, but who love me really well. And I said this on a call last week, because I'm with you, Russell. I've had a hard time opening my Bible. And if I do, I flip right to Habakkuk. And I sit right there in chapter 1, verses 2-4, when he's like, how long, O Lord, justice is being perverted. That's how I feel right now. That's where I'm at. And I can't get past that yet. And I told a friend a group of people last week, I said, I'm having such a hard time opening my Bible and praying but I know friends are praying for me. And I feel like the paralytic man on the mat, the house was full, they couldn't get to Jesus, but his friends knew if we
Mm.
just get close enough, he will be healed. And he had faith and he knew he would be healed. So they put a hole in the roof, lowered their friend down, and I feel like I'm that man on the mat and I can't go, but my friends are carrying me. And that's so the spiritual community is so key and significant. We were created for relationships. We were created to be in community. And I know that there are restraints on that right now. And so we can't do some of the community things that we want to do and gather together, like without the distancing. But even just on the phone, a friend just texted me and saying, I'm praying for you, for me to reach out to them. I'm just really honest with my friends about how I'm doing, or they will press on me and say, how are you actually doing? I actually want to know how you're doing. How can I specifically pray? And so if you guys don't have that community, I pray that you can find that, even if it's just a few individuals to come alongside you and make sure and hold you accountable to what are you doing? Are you caring for yourself? Like I said, I had friends check me and say, we were about to tell you, you need to go somewhere and get out of Atlanta because you need to care for your soul because you're not right now and it's unhealthy and we are concerned. And to have those type of people in my life that will call me out and in kindness and in love, but to say, we are concerned about you, that is a depth of care and love that 5 years ago I didn't have in that way. And so those are, yeah, I could go on and on about that, but because my community is great and I have some phenomenal women in my life. But I pray that for y'all would have some of that. So Russell, anything else you want to add to that?
Um, Yeah, I just was going to say real quick about the importance of how to be a good ally. If you're on this call and there's not a sense of where you're like, man, what can I do to help? I don't experience this aspect of racial trauma directly, but I want to be of support. I think there's a multitude of ways. We already said what not to do, right? In terms of what videos not to share and things like that. What you shared earlier of listening and just, just how you're doing. Just, hey, if you want to talk, that's fine. If not, then don't feel like the need to respond because that can even be overwhelming as well. But another thing is to really stand with, I like once somebody, what they did, they saw this post that I was, interaction I was having. And so they just Venmoed me and say, hey, do something enjoyable. Just have fun. Just, relax, and that was a blessing for me. As well as I think one of the key things that we need, and this is a picture of the body, it's a picture of oneness and unity, that the civil rights movement, or even if you go back to abolition, it was not able to happen without white allies. It took everybody coming together and saying, this is not going to stand. Black people only make up 13% of the population. So is not no way that from a voting standpoint or from a policy standpoint that there could ever be enough critical mass to turn the tide just by ourselves. We need people who see and hear and understand. And then so for some people who are not connected to these realities, who may be from the majority culture, you might need to watch that video. You might need to see what's happening and hear and understand and sit with some of these things and grieve and make sure that instead of looking that it moves one to conviction and not just to self-soothing and self-loathing. And so that's kind of an important distinction. But there's so much that we can do together when we link arms and we see, man, I see my, because it's just like what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 12 about the body, right? If the foot is hurting, the hand can't say I'm good because I'm not the foot. If your foot hurt, if you get up in the middle of the night and you hit your pinky toe on your corner of your bed, your whole body is shut down. It's like, wait a minute, we are hurting. That's a toe, but that toe is causing my whole body to, and I think we need to realize, okay, we are all feeling that, and we all need to come together. And I think education, reading some good books, but then also what are we going to do standing as advocates with those say this has to change. This is the moment to see that happen. And I think in athletics, more than probably any other realm, we've seen how it can just set the tone for everybody else.
Absolutely. That's a good word. Good word to